Hi, everyone, and welcome to Lincoln Township Public Library's podcast, Beyond the Stacks. I am Brian Johnston, the Adult Services Librarian here, and with me is my co-host, Amy Nolan, Children's Librarian. Amy, how are you doing today?
Couldn't be better. Really excited to be here.
Wonderful. Yeah, so the purpose of this podcast is to provide our patrons with some interesting local information that can help them in a variety of ways. Right now, as some of you might be aware, we are currently closed. Our main building is closed due to a renovation that we're doing, but we do have a temporary location open at 4059 Hollywood Road in St. Joseph. And besides that, we're going to be out in the community the next few months doing a lot of really interesting things to keep our patrons engaged. So, Amy, why don't you tell me something that you're looking forward to coming up here?
You know, there's a lot, but one of the things that I'm most excited about is a new program we're starting from the youth department called Intergenerational Storytime. And this is an awesome idea to bring the youngest generation and the oldest generation together. And we're going to host these story times each month starting in October at Pine Ridge, which is Corewell Health's Rehab and Nursing Center. And we're going to have them. The first one's going to be October 8th, then one on November 12th, and the last one of the year will be on December 10th. They're at 2 o'clock. We are partnering not only with Pine Ridge, but with Krazel Art Museum. They are going to be providing the craft for the children and the residents at Pine Ridge to do. And Miss Kristen and I will be there to do a really fun story time for everyone to participate in. If someone is listening to this who hasn't participated in one of these before, it's a really, really meaningful, cool way to meet new people, new friends, and to bring a lot of joy to people's lives. I encourage everyone to attend if they can.
Oh, that sounds really awesome. Sounds like a really great way to, for us to get out in the community and maybe help some people make some new friends and some good memories with other members of the community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what about you? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm just looking forward to just being out in the community in general. I know the library, normally when we're open, we're doing lots of really great, wonderful things, but I don't think everybody is quite always aware of some of the great things that we're doing, like outside our building.
Yes.
And the fact that we're going to be mostly out in the community the next few months doing these things, it's going to really give us an opportunity to go to different locations, kind of meet patrons where they are, and maybe learn more about them and what some of their needs are for when we reopen again. And besides that, just providing some great programs for members of our community. Even while we're closed, we still want to show them that we still care and want to do a lot of great things for them.
Exactly. And it's kind of fun to mix it up. This is a nice time for us to do different things, be in different areas. And I know that at our temporary location, we've already had patrons comment that some of them can walk to that location now. So that's a really cool thing for some people.
Yeah.
So let's just embrace it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a renovation is always going to bring challenges, but we're looking at it as an opportunity to enhance our services and hopefully help a lot of patrons as well.
Exactly.
So our guest today is Caryl Olson. She is with Cruise Planners. She's a local travel agent, and we're going to be speaking with her in just a few moments here. So the library has a relatively new service that we're providing passport services to our patrons. So our patrons can come in here and one of our staff members can help them finish filling out their application, get it signed, and get their passport in the mail so that they can get a passport and hopefully travel abroad in the near future. This is a service that...
Wow.
Yeah, it's a service that a lot of people are already taking advantage of in the short amount of time that we started doing it. And we're looking forward to helping a lot more patrons in the future because, getting out and, everybody talks about how the library brings the world to you.
Yes.
But now we're kind of doing the opposite as well. We're kind of allowing patrons to see the world on their own, too.
I like the way you put that.
Yeah, so it's a really neat service that a lot of people are taking advantage of. And
now, can you just walk in and have someone help you with this?
Well, we do ask that you schedule an appointment with us. You can do that by, there is a form on our website that you can fill out that just requesting, how many people you have. You fill out your name, your contact information, what your preferred times are. And shortly after that, one of our staff members will get back to you and schedule an appointment with you.
That is fantastic. For anyone who's had to wait in line at the post office to have this done, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Is there a fee involved for this?
So if you are applying for a passport, adults need to pay a fee of $130 each to the Department of State.
Okay.
And for children, that fee is $100. And besides that, the library also collects a $35 service fee as well. And all the information about, how to prepare for the appointment, how to write a check or to make payments for your appointment. All that information is located on our website. So if you are scheduling one of these appointments, make sure you're going on our website ahead of time. All the details are on there that you need to know. So make sure you're well prepared for the appointment.
Excellent. And then one last question.
Yeah.
What if I need to renew my passport? Can I do that at the library?
That is something that in most circumstances, there are a few exceptions. You can look at our website to see what that is. But in most circumstances, that's something that you could do on your own through the mail. Because when you apply for a passport, there's one form that you fill out, and there's a separate form you fill out for a renewal. And like I said, you'll want to go on our website and check to see what you're eligible for, what you need to do to renew your passport, or if you do just need a brand new one. In some cases you do. The library here, we process new applicants. We don't do renewals, but we can at least point you in the right direction if you come in or contact us.
Certainly.
We can tell you about what form you'll need, where you need to mail it to, and what information. So we'd be glad to help you with that. But in terms of actually sending the application,
itself, right.
We only do new applications here. Renewals you need to do that on your own.
All right.
All right, wonderful. All right, let's get started. Our guest here is Caryl Olson of Cruise Planners. She's based out of St. Joseph. Caryl, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Wonderful. We're really glad to have you here. So could you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up and kind of your career trajectory up to this point?
Okay. I actually grew up in Wisconsin, went to college in Iowa, moved to Michigan in 1979, and I've been here ever since. So I kind of feel like a native, but not really. So was in human services for about 15 years, and then the contract that I had ended, and my husband said, well, find something you love to do. And we both love to travel, and so I chose to get into travel, and that was in 1992. So I've been doing travel for 32 years now.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
That's awesome. No,
Yeah.
that's great experience.
You only do something that long if you love it.
Right. There are days, but
I'm sure. I am sure. Well, when we think about travel now, we think a lot about the pandemic because it was so affected by it. Could you talk a little bit about that and if you think that the travel industry has bounced back?
Well, yeah, in 2020, I was gearing up for my best year ever. And basically in one day, I lost $700,000 worth of business.
Oh my gosh.
And, and then I spent the rest of the year getting other people's money back from trips that were not going to happen.
Sure.
So it was really a very difficult year. I mean, but then once travel started again, it has just skyrocketed. And every year since then, I've had much better years than my other record year. So
do you think people were just itching for it?
Oh, absolutely. They had been home for so long. They hadn't done so many things. They reevaluated their priorities, and they decided that, life is uncertain. And if they had things on their bucket list, they needed to do them now.
For sure.
Yeah, I remember that. I actually went on a trip to Arizona right before the pandemic. I went to see my best friend from high school who was living there. And pretty much like about a week after I came back was when everything shut down. So I barely got in there. But so I guess the next question would be, what kind of trips do people in Southwest Michigan contact you about the most? What types of things are people wanting to do?
The largest number of people this year have been going to Europe, and they're doing river cruises, they're doing guided tours, they're doing independent tours, but just incredible numbers of people going to Europe from all over the world, basically. And then we have the usual spring break to Cancun or other places in Mexico or the Dominican Republic. I do I do whatever travel people want. So it does vary a lot. I've got people now going to South America. We did Africa in January, and so it's anywhere in the world basically. But Europe and Mexico and the Caribbean are the two big places.
Okay.
And you see that come in trends, in waves where people are going.
Europe has always been a popular place, but this year it has just ballooned. I mean, just crazy numbers of people going to Europe. And I think it's just because they've been locked up for so long with the COVID a couple of years ago that they want to make that dream come true.
Do you get a lot of word of mouth that people they know someone who went to France and now they're dying to go to France or Belgium?
Yeah, that happens a lot. My sister was just in France and now I want to go, or Italy is always a popular place. I've got a group that's we're starting in Bucharest, Romania, and doing the Danube all the way up to Germany.
Lovely.
So it's just a really unique itinerary, but it's one people probably have never done because it is so unique.
So talking about cruising, can you describe for the audience some of the benefits of cruising and why you think it's a great vacation for so many different types of people?
Well, my husband would tell you that the biggest benefit is you unpack once and then you go to all of these other wonderful places and you don't have to keep packing and unpacking and taking flights or trains or buses to get to the other places. I totally agree. I've done both land vacations as well as a lot of cruises. And, a cruise is nice because you have the same room throughout the entire 10 or 12 or 15-day cruise. You have food that you know exactly what you're getting on the ship. And you see a whole lot of different places. I just got back in July from a 17-day Norway cruise, and it was just spectacular because we saw so many beautiful places.
Well, and so much of the stress is taken out of travel, I feel, when you cruise because the excursions are there, your food's ready.
Right. You don't have to try to read street signs that are in Greek or try to find your way through a town that you're not familiar with. And that's what I tell people is to why even doing an organized tour through Colette or Globus or any number of the other tour companies is very good, especially if you're not a savvy traveler, because you've got a tour guide with you from the start to the finish, and that person is responsible for getting you from point A to point B, checking you into the hotel, taking you on individual tours. So whether you do a cruise or whether you do an organized escorted tour, they're both great ways to travel.
Right, and take the stress out for the person, because that's the thing you're trying to get away from, right? On a
There's
trip.
so many cities now have parking restrictions too, that you cannot drive into downtown, into city center in Rome or Paris or any place like that. You get a $250 ticket.
Yikes.
Because, you have to have a special pass in order to do that. So that's the type of thing you don't have to worry about if you do an escorted tour or if you're on a cruise and do one of the shore excursions.
And is cruising gone up in popularity?
Yes, absolutely. And, they keep building bigger and bigger and bigger ships and filling them. I mean, absolutely fill to the last bed. But what's also interesting is that cruises have also gotten smaller. And the cruise ship that I did in Norway was 700 passengers versus 7,000 on the latest Royal Caribbean ship. 2 years ago, we did a ocean cruise that maximum passengers was 198 people.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's expanding in a whole bunch of different ways, both getting bigger and getting smaller. But they're appealing to whatever your needs are, whatever your desires are. Because now I don't really like the 7,000 passengers.
Sure. And I would think I've always thought the smaller ones are more for couples. Like, this is not really, would you say they were family friendly?
Yeah, they're geared more for the 45 plus couples. But there are some that do specialize with children.
Nice.
They have special itineraries for that. and there's not only river cruises in Europe. I mean, there are river cruises now in the United States that are doing the Mississippi and doing the St. Lawrence Seaway, the Columbia River Gorge, the Snake River. So the river cruising is growing in all facets too. You can do a river cruise in China, Egypt. We did one on the Nile.
Oh my gosh, how cool!
There's a lot of options there too.
I heard, I think it was right before the pandemic, I heard they were going to start doing some Lake Michigan cruises too.
Yes, yeah, there are one or two companies right now that are doing Lake Michigan cruises. Unfortunately, they're not stopping in St. Joe. They are stopping in Holland.
Oh, and I'm so insulted.
I know, I am too. And then they're beginning usually in Toronto, ending in Chicago, or the reverse.
Wow.
Okay, wow, that would be great.
Those are expensive.
Yeah. So when people are preparing to travel, what are some of the things that they need to know or be thinking about when they're preparing a trip?
First and foremost, they need to make sure their passport is valid. Mm-hmm. So many people get a passport, stick it in the safety deposit box, and 9 years later decide that they're going to take a trip again where they need their passport. And a passport rule of thumb must be in effect for 6 months after your return date to the United States. There are some countries that will not let you in if your passport isn't good for 6 months after the time that you leave. Now, there are some countries that make an exception to that, but that is the rule of thumb to keep in mind. So if you have a passport that is 9 years old, you need to start thinking about having it renewed right away. And then renewing a passport, is not that difficult. I understand the library is getting into that business.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's a
we
great
recently started doing that. Yeah.
And then just, you don't need to be as concerned about dressing up like you used to on a cruise. I mean, when I first started cruising, you had to have the cocktail dresses and the glitter and sparkles and everything. And everything has gone a lot more casual, not only on the cruises, but on the tours too. They realize that 50 pounds for a piece of luggage is not a lot, especially if you're going to be gone for a long time. So, pack sensibly, probably pack less than you normally would.
Okay.
That's hard, but good advice. Very good advice.
And then the other thing is to make sure you put your medications in your carry-on bag and not in your checked luggage, because you may not see your checked luggage. My husband and I, on the Norway trip 2 years ago, his luggage was lost on the way over there. He got it again 2 days after we got back from our 16-day trip.
Oh my gosh.
So, and he had to find ways of getting his prescriptions refilled in Europe, which was a challenge.
Oh my, there's always a challenge, isn't there, with traveling?
Right.
That's the adventure.
Yep.
What about some tips for parents to keep kids interested and engaged on trips?
Well, I think that you need to probably take your child's age into account. And, children are not likely going to be interested in going from one museum to another museum. I tend to think in terms of Europe because I do a tremendous amount of European travel. But I did have one family last year that they took their grandchildren and the parents along to Italy. But in each city that they stopped in, they did an event that was geared around the children. They went to a children's museum in one place. They did mask making in Venice. They did gelato making another place.
I want to be part of this family.
Right.
Wow.
They did a gladiator class in Rome.
My gosh.
And so the kids were having a good time too. And I think they kind of, if somebody wanted to go to see a museum, I think the other adults in the group kind of covered for the kids, and those who wanted to go to the museum did that, and then they got together again right after that. So, you have to be flexible and understand where your kids are coming from, what things they're interested in. With modern technology, most kids will sit with a tablet in front of them and not even realize they're in some place.
Until you take them to a gladiator class,
Yeah,
and
really.
then they know.
Then the Coliseum means a whole lot more to them.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's great advice. That's great
So
advice.
for anybody out there that's considering taking a vacation, what are some of the benefits of using the services of a travel agent when doing that?
Well, I guess mostly the fact that I've been in business 32 years. I have been to between 85 and 90 countries, most of them multiple times. I, have been to Europe probably 45 times. I am familiar with the areas that I am talking about. I do a lot of training to keep on top of, whatever area. And I am able to advise people on things that they should or shouldn't do, or, places they absolutely should go to. And it's things that I have learned having been there and done that. Travel agents do not charge a fee. We are paid by the tour company or the cruise company. I would say the only exception to that would be if you had a totally customized tour where, you knew exactly which little cities you wanted to go to and what you wanted to do, there would probably be a planning fee. But other than that, there is no fee. So you get our services and our knowledge for the same price as if you book it with the cruise line or the tour company. The difference is the person who's taking your information at the cruise line may never have been on a cruise. They may never have been out of the country, or they may be in a foreign call center.
Okay.
So you get a wealth of information just by calling.
And that's great to know. I don't think a lot of people realize there's no charge.
Right.
I think that stops a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, your pricing should be the same, unless there's some strange quirk.
Certainly.
But we get our prices from the tour company. We get our prices directly from the cruise line, and that's what the price is. So they should match whatever you would get if you were to call for exactly the same cabin and dates and everything else. You have to be comparing apples to apples. So
Definitely. Well, that's great to hear. If people are interested, how could they get a hold of you for more information?
Well, they can call me at 269-982-0901, or they can contact me at my email, which is colson@cruiseplanners.com. So colson@cruiseplanners.com.
All right, wonderful. Well, Caryl, you've got me excited for my next vacation. So I need to go home and start planning it tonight, I guess.
You're going to go to that gladiator class, aren't you?
Sounds interesting to me. Yeah, for sure. Well, Caryl, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. I think we learned a lot. We really enjoyed having you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I enjoyed
Thank
being here,
you.
too.
That was awesome.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I thought that was a really fun interview, and it got me really excited about going on some more vacations again in the near future.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah. Now, Amy, you were telling me earlier that you recently went on a trip. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh my gosh, yeah. My husband and I just recently got back from about a 6-day trip to Ireland, which is a country I just adore. Lovely people. And we've always had good luck with the weather, probably because I'm half Irish. That's my excuse. But we went because we were in a half marathon in Dingle, which I have to say was breathtaking. If anyone who's listening runs or walks, I walked. Marathons or half marathons, I would highly, highly recommend the Dingle Marathon, which is becoming more and more popular. But it was an awesome trip. How about you? Where have you been recently?
Well, earlier this year, me and my wife and my stepson Levi, he just graduated from Lakeshore High School. And for years, he's wanted to take a trip to Japan. He's always, loved a lot of things about Japanese culture. So we finally did it.
Wow.
Back in April during his spring break. That was kind of to celebrate his graduation from high school. It was a lot of fun. It took a lot of work to plan it. But it was really interesting just being in a totally different culture, learning about different customs. It was really eye-opening. Besides the fact that it was just a lot of fun, it really taught me a lot about, other cultures and just how to kind of, surround yourself with other things and try to learn new things all the time. It was a really good experience. And then besides that, just a couple months ago, my wife and I made a little bit shorter trip. We went to Canada. We went to Niagara Falls, and we went to Toronto. Saw some sights there. Went to a Toronto Blue Jays game. It was
Of course you did.
really fun. Yeah, that actually. I went to Rogers Center where the Toronto Blue Jays play. That is the 12th Major League Stadium I've seen so far.
Oh my gosh.
And there are 30 of them, so I still have a ways to go. But so I'm hoping to see all of them, in my lifetime.
Well, Brian, it's good to have goals.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. So do you have anything coming up then?
Actually, I have a huge trip coming up that's been a long time in the making, probably much like your Japan trip, where my husband and I are going to go to New Zealand in February. Not looking forward to the flight, but besides that, once again, we're not doing a race, but it's called Milford Trail, which is supposed to be one of the best hikes in the world. And so we're doing like a 5-day hike there and then just exploring the rest of the country. And we're going to be gone for a good amount of time because I'm not flying that long to quick get back on the plane.
Oh, no, I understand that. Make it count.
Yeah, make it count.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to that. What about you?
Yeah, so I'm turning the big 4-0 next year.
Look out, folks.
So for years, I've wanted to go on an Alaskan cruise, and me and my wife are finally going to do it. When we got married just a little over 10 years ago, we went on a Caribbean cruise for our honeymoon, and she really wanted to do that. And I was a little bit hesitant about it because I didn't know very much about going on cruises, but I just had an absolute blast. We've been on a couple additional ones since then. Tons and tons of fun. I know we talked about it with Caryl a little bit. Really fun vacation. I do get seasick a little easy, so I had to take some medication to take care of that. But
it's great that there are things for that.
Yeah,
you can really combat it.
Yeah, and they do help. They're very effective. So I did take care of that ahead of time. But other than that, it's just tons and tons of fun. And for anybody, in any stage of life, whether you have a family, you're young, you're older, it's a great vacation no matter what age you are because they take care of all your food, which is good.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about that. And besides that, there's tons of excursions and entertainment options on the boat, even when you're not docked in somewhere. So it's a great vacation.
Exactly. And I always say it's a great way to see a lot of different things.
Yeah,
because you're not worried about the transportation. But Carol's, what a resource. Highly recommend reaching out to her. She just knew a lot and got me excited about another cruise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And anytime you're doing any kind of vacation like that, it's definitely good to get opinions from other people so you kind of know what you're doing going into it. Yeah. Well, Amy, this was a lot of fun. Really appreciated you joining me here. And
I love being here.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to putting out some more episodes in the near future. So we're hoping this will be a great new way to connect with our patrons, and hopefully you'll learn a lot, and it'll encourage you to keep wanting to come to the library.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again soon.